Something I've always said is if you want to eliminate or curb piracy, you want to actually preserve retro games, which a lot of these companies don't actually care about most of the time, unfortunately. You know, you actually want people to buy your stuff, pay you money. Something you have to do is release it. You actually have to put that out there on a marketplace, whether it be physical, digital, a combination, so that people can actually buy your thing, right? It seems like Capcom actually understands this because we are getting the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics Collection, essentially, and this is really awesome. Now, some of you are going to say, well, this is a bunch of old games. Who really cares? Unfortunately, that is a attitude that happens with a lot of these collections when these old games come out. It's like, hey, I've already seen this. Well, this isn't a simple case of something like The Last of Us, where it's like, oh, well, now let's remaster it for the next system. Now let's remake it for the next system. This isn't something like that where it's just obviously being brought back over and over again. This is a slew of superhero games, which is pretty much the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. These are games like X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you know, a game that has been locked behind a lot of problems for a while. And then, of course, as well, the arcade classic beat 'em up, The Punisher, which I think is kind of a sneak that I'm glad made it onto this list. It's not really a fighter, like, oh, this versus this. This is just a beat 'em up game, kind of similar to a game like Maximum Carnage. But it's really awesome to see this because I believe, by the way, this is the first time a lot of these games have been available on console in many years, and others were actually on console but were not done very well from their arcade ports. So we're going to take a look at this for a few minutes. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like, subscribe. I appreciate you very much. I also wanted to ask, do you have a favorite superhero fighting game? This could be a game like Injustice. This could be a game like X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I'm interested to hear down below in the comments what's your favorite and why. Now, something really cool about this collection is actually that some of these releases weren't on consoles for many years legally in terms of being able to buy them. Yes, you could jailbreak your console, you could install whatever you wanted. You know, you could install the RPG based off your grandma's bar mitzvah on Homebrew if you wanted to. But in terms of legally buying these games, a lot of them were actually not able to be purchased for many years, or the ports were just a crap show. For example, I believe that the X-Men vs. Street Fighter original PS1 release was really, really bad. They tried to port it over from arcade. It did not go very well. It was purchasable, but it was pretty much nothing compared to the actual arcade cabinet. Also, another example of this as well is the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Now, you might remember that there's been all this talk around the MVC series, like rights issues, or like, where did it go? What happened? Like, Marvel vs. Capcom has unfortunately kind of been a dead brand for a while, but it's a brand that people really liked. Now, here's the thing. I am not a fighting games expert. That's why I'm not talking about it from that, I guess I would say, perspective, right? I have never been the best person at fighting games, partially because of my hand pain. I have a fight stick, but like with my chronic pain and stuff, it's always been hard for me to get very good at these types of games, especially against other people. I've also had some kind of bad experiences with people in the fighting game community. I know that what people tell me is they're mostly nice, but every time I've tried to get involved, talk to people, learn how to play things like that, I just run into dicks. Like, I've never actually had a good experience with it. So games like this, I mainly just play by myself, like sitting in my room against the computer, like playing arcade mode, playing against the CPU, things like that. I just find that to be more fun. One thing that I do like about this collection is it's not some nerfed version where it's like you just get it, you can play ranked, and that's it, right? This is actually the ports of all of these games. In the case of like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, weren't available for years. Like, I believe the last time this was sold legally on console was back in the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation, and then it got delisted eventually. And I actually have an Xbox 360 that still has MVC2 on it, but you can't buy it anymore. And I know that the hard copies of this game, like on the original Xbox, PlayStation 2, stuff like that, they were very expensive. So to me, to actually see these games back, both from a video game preservation standpoint of finally people can legally access these again, from a standpoint of like, okay, well, this takes a little bit of a bite out of the stupid retro games market, which I think is massively inflated and is really just used by people to make money, not preserve games. From the standpoint of getting new features, like for example, they are adding different songs from the arcade releases that weren't actually in some of these ports before when they did get ported. They're adding development documents, never before seen art, training settings. They're actually adding one-button specials for newcomers, which I thought was really cool. So like if you want to see the moves, actually try things out and then learn how to play it, you can do that. I believe there's also save states, because like the IGN article that talked about this and some other articles talked about the save feature as well. And finally, I think that what's really cool about this is the fact that it is getting a physical. Now here's the thing. Unfortunately, this is not getting a release on Xbox platforms. The exact answer, I don't really know why. But what I've read about it is that it has something to do with the code. It has something to do with the online network, that like it's harder to port this kind of old fighting game to Xbox. What I personally don't understand about that is I believe there were 2 Capcom collections that did come to Xbox in the past 10 years, or maybe like 5 to 7 years. There was like the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, and then there was the other Capcom Fighting Classics Collection. But what I will say is I'm glad that these games exist. I'm glad that they are getting released again. I'm glad that players are finally going to be able to legally buy them. And I'm really tired of the retro games market in general. I'm tired of it being inflated. I'm tired of people using it to make a buck off of other people's nostalgia for old games. And then one thing I'm really tired of is companies like, for example, Nintendo and Sega, who recently went after the ROM site Vim's Lair, who will get on this high horse and be like, you can't pirate our games, you can't download Pokemon Emerald, what the hell is wrong with you, that's our thing, but then they don't sell it. So it's like the only way to buy it would be to go spend $250 on eBay to buy this Game Boy Advance cartridge. It's like, well, no, duh, people are gonna download the game. What you really think that they're gonna pay half the price of a PS5 to play your one Pokemon game? Really? One thing I like about this is it takes a huge bite out of that, not only by being a digital release, but also Capcom did confirm that it was getting a physical release as well. So Capcom PR actually confirmed that as well, both on Switch and PS4, that there is going to be a physical. It does bum me out it's not on Xbox for people, because my other 2 collections are on Xbox. So now as an OCD person, I'm like annoyed. But regardless, it's a good situation. I'm very happy. This is like the good ending for video game preservation. This is the good ending for getting back a big superhero game franchise. By the way, one of the best franchises where you can play as the X-Men in particular. Like, yes, a lot of other characters have gotten good standalone games, and X-Men does have some, but these are some of the best games, I would say, with the X-Men roster especially out there. Like Spider-Man, he's not really sweating it if, you know, you don't see him in Marvel vs. Capcom. He's iconic, but he's got so many video games, right? A lot of these characters, and especially the Punisher with this beat 'em up, like, they only got so many games, especially good ones. So it's really fun and special for me to see those back in the hands of players coming out this year, actually in 2024. And I don't know, I'm genuinely shocked that this exists, but I'm really happy about it. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, I appreciate it very much. All the normal ways to support the channel are in the description down below, including CosmoBunny.shop, where you can actually use code DJAY123 for 10% off your first order. We got comic book and manga resin pieces from repurposed, damaged comics and manga that were not able to be sold. We recycle them, turn them into something new and transformative for your home. We also have hand-beaded jewelry over there. And finally, if there's another online game you want to play that you want to support us on, you can use code DJAY123 on the support a creator option on Fortnite. That helps us out a lot. We hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.